Hey everyone, so my name is Leon, and today we're gonna be doing a different video. I still we talk about Big Brother 23, but I kind of want to talk about the Cookout lines and their final six scenarios and how I think each player, their best case scenario, how it would be when they get to the final three, and how they should approach the final six onwards. Because from the looks of it, the Cookout, they're looking like they're gonna get to the final six, bearing any switch ups and bear anybody outside the Cookout win a challenge from the final seven, or bearing anything happening in the triple bitching, or let's say if one of the Cookout members turn on the rest of the line. So we'll see. But it looks like the Cookout is gonna get to the final six with no hiccups or anything. But yeah, it's kind of it's a good alliance. They have been very loyal to each other, which is great. And I kind of want to go through some of the scenarios that I see that could happen with them once they get to the final six and how each player I think should approach it from the final six onwards. With that being said, let's jump right into the video. So I want to talk about Kylan's game, and Kylan has been kind of running the game here and there. He even has some hiccups. If he gets to the final six, I think his best bet is to get rid of, if he can, try to get rid of Aza or Tiffany, like in the first at sixth place or fifth place. So his final four should be Hannah and the guys Xavier, Big D, aka Derek F. So if he can get to the final three scenario with a Hannah or a Big D or Xavier Big D, because as much as Xavier wants to keep Kyle out, Xavier's somebody who's doesn't want to go to the final two or final three with Kylan necessarily. So definitely getting rid of Tiffany Azza, two people who, even though they're working with him now, they don't mind turn on him. You know what I mean? So if he can get to the final three with Hannah, if Hannah's good at the mental comps, but can she win the physical comps? I'm not really sure. And Big D, who's somebody who's not been good at comps at all, and is especially loyal to him, I think that'd be great for Kylan to get himself to the final two. But we'll see. We'll see for Kylan. I think Kylan's playing an amazing game. He has some, flaws and everything, but I think Kylan can get to the end if he can play his cards right. He might be someone that has to win out, I think, from Final Six onwards to protect himself, because he's probably not the best player, but he's probably the biggest threat of the Cookout. He's probably, I would say, the second or third best player. But that's just my opinion. Anyways, moving on. So now we'll get to Azza. So in Final Six, obviously, she should stay loyal to Big D, aka Derek F. Her ideal final three scenario would be with Hannah and Big D, if possible, because I think, she doesn't trust Hannah. I think Hannah would see her as not as a big threat. I think if she can get rid of Tiffany or Kylan in the sixth and fifth place and then go to the final four with and Xavier, who, Xavier's the best player. Xavier is somebody that she can kind of trust. I don't, even though Tiffany wants to take her to final three, I think she loses against Tiffany easily. So Tiffany's somebody that she should cut at somewhere around the final five, if not final four. So definitely final three with Hannah and Big D. I think Hannah might take her over Big D, and I think Big D is definitely taking her because Big D is a final two. So definitely Azza, if that's her, if she gets to the final six, that's what she should be thinking of doing. But we'll see. I don't think not Hannah. I don't think Azza has a chance to win the game, to be honest with you. But who knows? Crazy things may happen. Xavier, I think Xavier's playing the second best game behind Tiffany, who I will talk about later. Xavier is playing a really solid under the radar game. Has a good amount of control in the game. Yeah, he's a little bit too passive in terms of letting some of his allies like Christian go home pre-jury. But despite that, he's been able to control the game. He's been able to maneuver his way through each and every week. He's about to go on the block right now as we speak because Tiffany, spoiler, has won an HOH, and due to Laxui's veto, he won. In addition to that, he had to go on a block for the upcoming week as a third nominee. But it's okay. Xavier is playing exactly how, if I were in the house, I would play the same way. In terms of final three, I will try to go with the guys or go with Big D or Hannah, because Hannah and him actually have a really solid, solid friendship and everything. And I think Hannah, out of all the guys, Hannah's probably most loyal to Xavier, whereas I don't think she's loyal to Big D or Kylan as much as she's loyal to Xavier. And also, Tiffany and Kylan are two people that see Xavier as a big threat and see as somebody that will take him out. And even if somebody like a Big D or Hannah doesn't make final three, I think Azza in one of those spots too would be fine. So as long as Xavier can get Tiffany and Kylan out, I'll say Tiffany first and then Kylan like at fifth. I think that would be fine. A final four scenario with Big D, who he has a final two with, Hannah, who has some loyalty to him, and Azza, who's also pretty loyal to him as well. I think Xavier could just win out and beat them in majority of the comps, and he can just get to there and win the game. I think Xavier's gonna, if Xavier gets the final two, and he doesn't get there next to Tiffany, he wins the game. I think because he has enough respect of jury, has enough allies in jury. Sarah Beth and Alyssa are two people who were on the Kings team with him. So if he's sitting there, if next to somebody not named Connor for Sarah Beth will probably both of him, and Alyssa is both of him regardless. So I think Xavier set up pretty well here in Endgame. Moving on. Speaking of Tiffany, let's speak of Tiffany. Tiffany is playing the best game of the season. Yes, she has some flaws, but unlike Xavier, she's very aggressive in the gameplay. Yes, there's some scenarios that didn't go her way necessarily, but Tiffany has a good stronghold in the game. I still think if it's a final six, her best bet, she needs to get Xavier and Kylan out ASAP because those are her biggest threats when it comes to the end game of final six. I think they can win majority of the comp. So if she can take a shot against them in final six or final five, if they all get to the final six, or if she can get someone else, like say Hannah, to take the shot at them for her, I think it'd be really good. If she can get to the final three with Hannah and Azza, but even then, that's kind of shaky. Maybe Big D and Azza, being that if she sits to both of them, she wins. Because I think Hannah, depend on the votes, Hannah could probably steal some votes for her. But even then, I think Hannah has the game sense of and awareness to know that Tiffany is playing one of the better games. But even if it's just Hannah and a Big D, I think Hannah and a Big D is also a good scenario. I don't know. I mean, she can beat Azza in competitions, but I think Azza maybe somebody she take out Final Four because Azza, you know, works okay with Tiffany. I don't think Azza completely trusts Tiffany, and neither does Big D. But Big D is not gonna win the comps necessary to get to the end himself. I think he's gonna get dragged there. So I think Tiffany, if she can get Xavier Kylan out fifth or sixth, doesn't matter. I think that's the best case scenario. And if she gets the Final Four with Hannah, Big D, or Azza and can get to the final two somehow, some way, she wins the game automatically. So that's my opinion. I'm proud of Tiffany's gameplay. Good job. Anyways, moving on to Big D, aka Derek F. I think his best bet in the final three scenario is just going to the end with some combination of Kylan, Xavier, and Azza in the final four. But he cannot have both Xavier and Kylan in the final three. Maybe a Kylan and Azza final three scenario with him because Kylan's going to take him, Azza's going to take him. I think if you have Xavier there, Azza maybe tempted to take Xavier to the end. So maybe, even though he's loyal, he's fine to Xavier, maybe Xavier should go out fourth specifically for him. But he definitely should get Hannah and Tiffany at the first two people out of the cookout for her. Tiffany sixth, Hannah fifth, or if he's afraid of Hannah's endgame compatibility with a good memory, get out Hannah sixth, Tiffany fifth, and let the other two guys, Xavier Kylan, go after Tiffany. You know what I mean? So I think Big D, if he gets dragged there, he might lose, but I think he's good enough socially to maybe convince them to be like, hey, if sit next to Azza, he could probably steal some votes against Azza. Or if he sit next to Kylan and Kylan made enough people bitter in jury like a Derek X, then Derek F, aka Big D, can probably steal a few votes here and there. But we'll see. I don't see him winning, but I think that's the best case scenario for him to get up to the final three or final two. And now, last but not least, we'll get to Hannah. I think Hannah's best bet in the final three. And I don't think Big D is going to take Hannah to the end, I'll be honest. So I won't mention Big D in the final three scenario, but her best bet in the final three scenario, And this may be blasphemous, but I think these two people will most likely take her there. It'll be Xavier and Tiffany. I think Xavier and Tiffany can take her to final two themselves, but I think both of them could beat Hannah. And maybe Hannah could probably steal a few votes in a bit of jury. I think she can get the votes of Derek X and Alyssa possibly, but Hannah, like secretly, yeah, they think Ozzy and Big D ain't playing a good game. Like they could be dragged, but I think Hannah could be dragged to the end too. So Hannah might have to start winning some comps and starting to build a resume up a little bit, or she might just lose the game. And the reason why I mentioned Tiffany and Xavier, because Tiffany and Xavier won't take each other, they will take her. And I think in sixth place, she definitely needs Kylie to go first. She specifically needs Kylie to go first because I think, Azza doesn't really trust her. I think Azza and Big D aren't as good at comps as she is, but I don't think she cannot get to the end with Big D and Azza together in the final three because they'll take each other over her. But I think Xavier and Tiffany can take her over them, each other. So yeah, that's it. Let me briefly talk about the cookout. So, people are not agreeing what they're doing in the game, but I think they're doing a good job of hiding their lines. Other than someone like a Claire, no one has really picked up on it. Until they either watch it back or until there was kind of hinted a toll like Derek X. I watched his interview with Jury. He picked up most of them, but even he forgot some few people that's in line. So the cookout is doing a good job, not being in the same room. So yeah, part of doing. I hope they can really see it through and get to final six together. And I'm rooting for them. Anyways, that's the video. Thank you guys for watching. Just a brief analysis of how do I think each member of the cookout should approach the end game. And with that being said, more videos and recaps coming soon. Thanks for watching. See you guys.